You wake up lying in the middle of a pile of decaying straw. A faint breeze sneaks in from the nearly empty corner of a creaky wardrobe, making the hay shudder and kick up thin clouds of dust. The room's air is thick and damp, with the wild smell of damp weeds hanging heavy like a fog. Barefoot, you feel the straw cling to your skin, each stalk warmed by the earth beneath, sticking just enough to remind you it's there. You turn your head and notice the old hole-ridden blanket in your hand. Its colors are faded and stained, but somehow it still holds a bit of warmth against the cold stone floor. You wrap it around your shoulders, relieved to find even this ragged sack of stitches offers more comfort than the itchy hay. As you breathe in and out, you hear the soft scrabble of rats moving through the straw. In the little gaps under the rotting hay, they shuffle like a tiny chorus, quickening their pace at your stirring. One brushes against your blanket with its tail, and you jump at the sudden shadow. You steady your heart, flick the hay from your shoulders, and force yourself to sit up. Above you hangs a mildew-stained cloth, drooping like a half-lit dome over the straw-strewn room. When you stand, the blanket slips away with a soft scrape, and strands of straw twist around your ankles. You take a few cautious steps down the narrow, stone-tiled corridor. Your footfalls creak the rotten wood, whispering old stories of this place. At the end of the corridor, there's a bowed door. You pull on it, and it moans like it's crying, the damp wood groaning under your strength. Gritting your teeth, you push it open. A rush of cold air floods in, pushing the damp hay smell behind you and nudging you into a darker room. A dim glow seeps through a small, horseshoe-shaped window. Dust particles drift up from the floor, catching the light as they float. On the table lies a rusty iron trap, maybe from last night's squirrel hunt, or perhaps a sign of someone's desperate hope to survive. Your hand reflexively goes for a weapon, but you find only rodent snares and an old belt buckle. The raw feeling of vulnerability settles in your chest. You steady your breath and step toward the table. There, half-melted candle wax sits on the dusty wood, its sweet scent faint but real. The stub of the candle still flickers, casting dancing shadows that seem to bring the room to life. You know that tiny flame is your only promise of light right now. Gently, you blow away the ashes, and a small spark reawakens, bathing the tabletop in a soft orange glow. As you cradle the candle stub, your eyes drift to a faded wall tapestry leaning against the far wall. It once told the rituals of a wealthy peasant, but now the threads are loose, the colors washed out. You brush a finger across the worn embroidery, and the pieces tumble away, yet you can almost see the old life it once depicted. Carrying the candle into the next room, you feel a weight in your chest. This rotten hay, this smothering darkness, this tattered tapestry, they all remind you how fragile survival can be. It's still early morning. Whatever hardships await outside haven't knocked yet. But your racing heart is already warning you that this day won't be easy. You lift the candle toward the pale light streaming through the window. Its tiny flame leads you down a shadowed hallway, each step a mix of hope and challenge. Because in this world, the comfort of warm straw is never a sure path to safety. You pause, take a steadying breath. The darkness still feels as cold as steel. You ball your fist and press it to your chest, feeling the beat that reminds you you're still here, still fighting. Then, You push the door open once more. The heavy groan of iron echoes like the start of something new. And so, you step out of that rotten haystack and into the stone corridors, ready to face whatever comes next, whether the sun's warming rays or the biting wind. Your first step is taken, and no matter how strong the cold or how relentless the day, you're determined to make it through. You turn your back on the little stone hut and step into a horizon already framed by a blazing golden ring. The cool air you felt inside was a lie. Once your foot hits those sun-baked stones, the heat scorches the soles of your feet like a branding iron. You inhale sharply. It feels like fire is tearing through your throat and straight into your lungs. You sprint out into the narrow courtyard, which looks lit by flames rather than sunlight. Every shadow has melted away, leaving just a blinding glare. With each step, gravel crunches underfoot, sticking between your hardened soles. Suddenly, a simple walk feels like surviving a trial by fire. You lift your face to the sky, not a hint of blue, only a harsh white glare so fierce it erases even the memory of clouds. A few yards ahead is a storage shed door offering cold shade. It's only a few steps away, but right now that patch of darkness might as well be paradise. You quicken your pace, but the heat catches you before you reach it. A wave of scorching air slams into your chest, racing your heartbeat. Even the dust kicks up in frantic little bursts, like bubbles popping on hot water. You want to pause and catch your breath, but holding it only makes the heat feel more suffocating. The metal buckles on your sandals heat up and stick to your skin. You cup your hands over your cheeks and draw a deep breath, expecting maybe a fleeting coolness, but all you get is the smell of charred air. You think about turning back to the hut, but the heat pushes you forward like a beast barreling into your back. You scan the land for any long, dark shadow. Only parched fields and withered grass stretch out in every direction. You squint, struggling under the glare, wishing for a clouded memory of something cooler. In the distance, you spot the village well, a tiny, shivering speck a few hundred yards off. Reaching it feels as impossible as holding your breath forever, but you know it's the only way to slake your thirst. Your lips taste salty with sweat, nothing but salt. Even the hands you washed so carefully this morning are coated in dust, like you just left a dry bathhouse. You swipe sweat from your brow. Strands of your hair cling to your neck, each one a reminder of the sun's cruelty. You tilt your head side to side, searching for a breeze to ease the burn, only to realize even the wind's too afraid to stir. Your linen shirt, once just a thin shield, now clings to your skin, soaked and heavy with sweat. It's suffocating you more than the open sky ever could. Your pants are wet up to your knees, but that doesn't help. They just conduct the heat deeper into your legs. You pause, pressing your palm to your forehead. Through your half-closed eyelids, the sunlight burns a red halo into your vision. Every inch of your body is exposed under this relentless glare. No tree canopy, no roof overhang, just a world without shade, where every footprint vanishes into the scorching sand. You force yourself to breathe steadily, listening to the tension in your ribs. Even the strongest body has no chance against this barren fire. Standing still is an achievement. Your mind keeps asking, should I even go on? But your feet don't listen. They keep pointing forward. The well's shadow grows clearer on the horizon. With every step, You spread your weight from shoulders to knees to feet, determined to push through. Your muscles beg for rest, but you know relief waits in that thin ribbon of darkness. You summon one last burst of effort, quickening your stride toward the well's cool promise. And so in this world scorched by an unforgiving sun, driven by thirst and the promise of a cold refuge, you take every painful step until you finally reach the very edge of that shimmering shadow. For a moment, even if just for a heartbeat, you taste freedom from the heat. And then you step into the shade, your heavy breaths echoing in the darkness. You step out of the hut and into the narrow, grimy streets of the village. Your destination is the rickety wooden outhouse in the corner of the courtyard, the place everyone calls the toilet, though it's more of a nightmare than a restroom. Mud from the last rains squelches under your feet, carrying with it a foul stench that reminds you just how unpleasant this task will be. You take a deep breath. Walking inside is a test of courage. You push open the wooden door. Its rusty hinges groan like a warning. Inside, dim light reveals splintered floorboards that creak under your weight. The smell, sharp, oppressive, burns your nostrils. Each inhale brings damp, fetid air into your lungs, and each exhale blows it back out into the village's collective stench. In the center sits a simple wooden seat, perched over a deep pit lined with stone walls. The waste below holds centuries of hidden secrets in its layers. A few discarded bricks on a makeshift shelf suggest someone once stored a rag or a bucket here. Sticks and straw are scattered on the floor, silently hosting insects and slimy crawlies. You shut the door behind you. No lock, just the heavy thud of wood closing. You're alone now. An eerie hush settles, broken only by the sound of your own ragged breathing. You bend your knees slightly, channeling your weight, because though this moment is grotesque, your body demands it. You can't hold it any longer. You let go. Instant relief floods through you, freezing time for a heartbeat. The rumble of displaced stones underfoot, a single shaft of sunlight sneaking in from above, and a cool breeze slipping under the door. The sharp crack of business concluded echoes like a triumph. That sound bounces off the walls in tiny reverberations, almost like distant cries. Before you rise, you savor the odd lightness in your chest. But the discomfort isn't over. The odor you leave behind lingers, a reminder of what just happened. You pluck a bit of straw from the floor and scatter it around with a rustle, hoping to mask the evidence, or at least distract the insects. You straighten up, and your sandals hit the wooden floor with a hollow thud. The slick surface nearly throws you off balance for a moment. You wonder, why is it all so primitive? But there's no time to ponder. Life tests you further by denying you the comfort of a proper latrine. You reach for the door handle. Cold metal against your skin feels like a shock. As you push the door open, fresh air rushes in and floods your lungs. The earthy scent of soil and grass greets you, sweeping away the lingering filth. You step out and glance back into the outhouse. Its dark interior stands quiet and empty. For now, the ordeal is over, and this small ritual, more than just meeting your needs, lightens your mind. You shiver slightly, inhale deeply, and head back into the bustle of the street. Outside, even the sun's heat seems less oppressive than that stench. For a split second, the warm earth underfoot feels inviting, as if helping you forget the outhouse's horrors. you can't help but smile at the strange freedom this humble ritual offered. And so, after the rotten hay and the merciless sun, you faced the hidden misery of the cold stone latrine and emerged ready for your next trial, a hearty breakfast of coarse grain. The wooden door creaks shut behind you as you grip the wooden bowl and spoon in your hands. A cold draft snakes down the corridor, sending ripples across the steaming surface of your porridge. The village's lone cook gathered some dried herbs and a few tough potato chunks in the early hours and boiled them in water just for you. The porridge's color leans toward ash gray. It's undersalted and almost as bland as plain water. You lift the spoon to your lips and take your first sip. Tiny bits of wood bark catch on your tongue, surprising you as they scrape between your teeth. Still, hunger makes even this primitive gruel feel like a treat. You could drink bowl after bowl and still be hungry. But at least this warm liquid keeps the cold and exhaustion at bay. Dragging the spoon along the bottom of the bowl, you scrape up hardened starch bits. The contrast between the lukewarm broth and the rigid lumps sets a strange texture on your palate. You reach into the wooden bread basket and pull out a slice of bread so dense it might as well be oak. Biting into it sends a jolt through your gums and a dull ache through your jaw. You set the bowl on the table and inhale deeply, savoring the steam. The scent of dried herbs and potato wafts into your nostrils, lending a small comfort. For a moment, you think survival comes down to these three things: hot porridge, wooden bread, and faith. Although faith today feels far less substantial than this thin gruel, you crack the bread's hard crust between your teeth. Crumbs scatter, and you press your lips together to sweep them away. Then you cup the loose bits in your palm, studying them like precious relics. These crumbs are the ghosts of once fertile soil, now a testament to drought, stony fields, and crushing taxes. After another swig of porridge, you lift the bowl toward a window crowned with a pointed tower shadow. Outside, the cold morning wind drifts in from the fields. A few farmers trudge toward their work under the pale dawn light, their faces etched with the same weariness you feel, bound to face the day on a diet of wood and gruel. You scrape the last bits of hardened starch from the bowl with your spoon, determined to taste every drop. Setting the bowl aside, you reach back into the bread basket and tear off a larger chunk. The first bite hits like a slap, yet you persist, because even this unyielding loaf will fill your stomach a bit more. The meows of alley cats and distant dog barks form the soundtrack to your mealtime. If you strain your ears, you catch the clanging of a blacksmith's hammer, another craftsman starting his day, sharing in the morning's toil. The glowing forge fire reminds you of your hot porridge. Both are symbols of the pain we endure just to keep living. You brush the crumbs off your coat's hem, then realize the courtyard is too dirty to retrieve them. So you pocket the handful, preserving your small treasure for the next meal. Those crumbs might one day trade for a scrap of bread. When you finish, you invert the bowl and tap it on the table, letting any last fragments fall away. You push the basket aside and rub your hands, feeling a slight tremor. Warmth and chill mingle in your chest. One side recoils from the cold, the other relaxes at the easing hunger. You take a deep breath and stand to clear the dish and basket. Your stomach isn't full, there's a long day ahead. But this harsh breakfast has granted you a brief reprieve from the village's relentless reality. As your boots press into the rough floor, the creak of the wooden chair signals you're moving into the next chapter. So, after the jarring austerity of barren porridge and wooden bread, you brace yourself for your next trial, stepping into that scratchy wool tunic awaiting you. You finish your meal and leave the heavy kitchen door behind, feeling the prickly wool shirt you're about to put on in your arms. Laughter from children and distant church bells drift through the walls, but your path leads to the tiny changing nook they call the wardrobe. There, hanging on a battered hook, is that one garment, your only armor. You reach for it and feel the sharp barbs of the wool even before you touch it. A single prick sends a tiny shock of pain up your arm. Still, you have no choice. This coarse shirt is your shield. You close your eyes, take a deep breath, and brace yourself. As you pull the shirt over your shoulders, the fibers scrape and stab at your skin. With every tug, little red pins appear along your collarbones and neck. A burning ache pulses just beneath your skin. Your palms sweat, but you won't back down. Putting it on is both surrender and defiance all at once. The shirt is heavier than you expected. The thick wool presses onto your shoulders, wrapping you tight so that even breathing feels like effort. The prickles dig in whenever you shift, forcing you to bend your knees slightly to keep from collapsing under the weight. One hand holds the neckline up, the other steadies your shoulders, but a few thorns still jab into the base of your neck. You shiver as warm blood seeps down your skin. For a moment you think, why do I have to bear this pain? Yet this agony is also your badge of endurance, a grim symbol of your strength. The shirt's buttons are tied with rough twine, knotted so tightly it takes real patience and finesse to undo and redo them. Your fingertips bear tiny cuts from past attempts. It's a ritual of pain every time you dress. Underneath, your old linen shirt peeks out wet with sweat, but it offers no real relief. A few stray wool fibers drift to the floor like fallen soldiers. You glance around the narrow niche, barely a yard wide between two walls. It's just you and this barrel of spikes. Taking it off will sting just as much as putting it on, and leave you defenseless against the freezing wind. You face your choice. Embrace the pain or surrender to the cold. You watch yourself in the dim light. Blood spots on the wool mark how deep the barbs have sunk. You hold your breath and take a step, each movement a dance between agony and resolve. Stepping toward the small window, your eyes adjust to the brightness. The half-parted wooden shutter frames a brief view of the village, muddy streets, wooden houses, and the church tower atop the hill. That tower will watch over you like a sentinel later today. As you stare out, you feel the tension between the shirt's sting and the clarity of this view. You straighten up, the thorns still digging in with every move, but you push forward. This trial is a hard truth of your world, the first proof that survival demands sacrifice. You inhale deeply, trying to ease the tightness in your chest. Then you step out of the niche into the corridor. Even a single stride in this thorny garment is a challenge, but your feet stay steady as you press on through the shadows. And so, after meeting the wardrobe's cruel embrace, you're truly ready to walk these medieval paths. Ahead of you lies your next trial, the relentless itch that won't let you forget this pain. You shuffle down the narrow corridor, every step a fresh reminder of the lice and fleas swarming beneath your prickly shirt. Tiny bodies crawl across the thin fabric of your undergarment, igniting a firestorm of itching from your shoulders down to your hips and thighs. You pause and hold your breath. The subtle tremor on your skin feels like a whisper. Remember, you're never alone. You reach back and lift the hem of your shirt. The swarm is so thick you can barely see the cloth beneath. Even the gentlest brush of your fingertips sparks a fresh wave of desperation. Little bite marks have formed mottled blue-brown patches on your skin, and when you shake your head, flecks of flaking skin drift down like confetti. You lean against the wall, seeking any distraction. The shadow play of the kitchen door slamming shut in the distance offers a momentary calm, but your body tells a different story. Every scratch brings relief and agony in equal measure. Your palms sweat. Press them to the itch, and you feel the pest's restless legs writhing beneath your fingers. It's like they're dancing across you. You force yourself forward. The boards groan underfoot as you step toward the open village square ahead. In your mind you wonder, how much longer can I take this? The itch fractures your focus yet keeps you painfully alert. No chance for sleep here. You slump forward, pressing your palms to your thighs and bowing your head. Instead of one searing pain, it comes in relentless little taps. A tickle on your shoulder, a tingle under your rib, a snap behind your knee. Each one drags you back into the cycle of scratching. You try to push past it. Take a deep breath. Find your center. For a split second you feel a strange soft comfort, like a tickle under your nose. Your brain almost thinks you're all right. But in seconds the itch returns more fierce than before. At the corridor's end, you glimpse the cool shadow cast by the stone walls. Maybe there you'll find brief respite. These bugs can't cling to cold rock. When your foot hits the smooth stone floor, a rush of chill wraps around your soles. You press your hand against the wide slab, savoring its cold solidity, a rare anchor in this torment. But the army on your skin stirs anew. You swipe your palm across your chest. A few lice tumble away, only to be replaced by fresh ones settling in. It's as if your entire being is under interrogation. Your body's limits, your patience, your mental strength all tested by this relentless itch. Your hand drifts to your belt buckle. Lifting it offers a glimmer of hope. Maybe you can loosen this shirt and silence the swarm. You tug at the buckle, but the twine is knotted tight over the wool, demanding patience and force. A small cut on your fingertip throbs, a warning that too much scratching will cut deeper. You catch sight of the tiny blood spots on your shirt. You dare not expose your skin. You'd freeze without this spiky barrier. This pain, or the cold's icy grip, the choice is unbearable. The itch surges again at its worst. You bend at the knees, inhale deeply. Tears threaten behind your eyes, yet you summon the grit to stand. You align your steps and push on. As you near the door, you catch a glimpse of new horizons through a crack of bright morning light. Your hand closes around the rough wooden handle, a simple village door, but strong. Gripping it, you feel the bite of the itch loosen just enough. You take a breath and pull it open. The sharp dawn air greets you like a promise. And so, despite the never-ending itch, you leave the corridor behind and step toward the next trial. The blacksmith's iron-tipped treatment. The throbbing in your jaw greets you with the first light of morning. Even after your toilet and breakfast ritual, that sharp ache radiating up to your cheekbones still lingers. You slow your steps, slip your hand into your pocket, and grip the small wooden tooth extracting pliers you've been hiding. Just thinking about using them turns your stomach. At the end of the corridor, on a side table by the cook's door, you spot the gleaming handle of your makeshift dentist's tool. It's a simple iron forceps, no master craftsman, just the village's only hope when your tooth pounds. Your fingertips trace the handle's grain, and memories of old surgical rites flash through your mind. Herbal sedatives, rope straps, sharpened bones. But now this metal plier is all you've got. You step inside and see the linen-studded chair waiting for you, its surface stained with dried blood and wax drips. You take a deep breath and lower yourself onto it. The cold linen chills your sweat, and you force your back straight. Every inhale makes the empty socket in your mouth throb. Your other hand reaches for the leather pouch of poppy extract. You chew a pinch of the bitter, metallic-tasting resin, your only painkiller. You bite your lip and take a few sips of water. Even that feels like a fly's wing brushing your gums. You warm the pliers in your palm. The cool metal vibrates against your skin, sending a shiver up to your jaw. Sunlight streams through the window, glinting off the empty space between your teeth. It's like a silent cue urging you forward. Deep breath, you whisper. You can do this. Your palms sweat and tremble. You raise the pliers to your mouth, guided by blind determination, and press the tip against your gum line just below the rotten tooth. Your reflection in the glass shows steady hands, but betrays the fear in your eyes. With your free hand, you pull back your lip and inspect the bad tooth. The gum around it is red and swollen. You press a fingertip against the inflamed flesh, a stinging reminder that relief is close. A wry smile crosses your face. Soon this pain ends by your own hand. You position the pliers around the tooth's root. The metal's cold bite briefly numbs, then click. You hear it settle into place. A sudden hush fills the room. There's no escape now, and no one else to hear you. You begin to squeeze. First, it's a tightening tension around the root, surfacing the hidden agony. Your mind echoes one thought. Almost there. Then comes the crack, a sharp snap, as the tooth's last hold breaks free. A wave of raw pain surges through your mouth. Your eyelids flutter. A tear trickles down your cheek. You bite your lip to staunch the bleeding, as warm crimson wells up around the empty socket. You grab the cloth beside you and press it to the wound. The fabric soaks up the blood and dulls the pain for a fleeting moment. Yet the cavernous gap stares back at you like a dark void. You draw in a steady breath and peel away the cloth. The gum-lined crater glows like red velvet. You turn your face upward, letting a shaft of sunlight through the roof tiles warm your cheek and soothe the sting. Almost overwhelmed, you steel yourself with a surge of pride. You chuckle softly to yourself. Dentistry in the Middle Ages. Nobody asked for this job. You gently set the pliers on the table. Rising, you head to the basin for water and wash your hands. The cold stream feels sacred, washing away the grit and blood. The tension in your shoulders eases. Your tooth is gone, and the gaping hollow, though painful, is survivable. This victory reminds you that in this harsh era, you remain master of your own body. You dry your hands and return to the window. The stone sill's cool surface offers comfort to your swollen cheek. A light breeze drifts in. clearing away the warmth and scent in your mouth. Breathing deeply, you realize this ordeal has tested and strengthened you. And so, having ended your tooth extraction nightmare by your own hand, you step toward the next scene, the road to the grave. Fresh from your DIY tooth extraction, you make your way down the flagstone street, each step heavy as you still guard that gap in your jaw. Ahead, you see a deep pit dug into the edge of the village square. Crude fences of clay and rotten branches ring it, more to keep soil from falling back in than as any real barrier. As you approach, the damp, earthy smell of overturned dirt hits your nostrils like the scent of waiting death. Beside the pit is a weathered wooden scaffold. Villagers sit on woven mats nearby, heads bowed, whispering quietly. Grief lines their faces. Some shoulders hunch in fear. You peer over the edge into the dark, dry earth, imagining the cold hollow where a body will rest. Shadows dance on the pit's walls, and you shiver thinking, that could be me in there. You lean closer and spot a rough wooden board nailed to a battered stone. Your name could be carved here someday. The murmurs stop. In the hush, you hear your own breath. A woman lifts her head and meets your eyes, her expression a weary acceptance. It's as if she's saying, you might be next. Your heart pounds. You feel a weight clench your chest. Death could claim you any moment, long before the sun peaks overhead. Your knees tremble, and loose grains of sand slip underfoot. You want to step back, but your hands stick to the prickly wool shirt's fabric. You whisper to yourself, if I want to live, I need to get out of here. You pace parallel to the pit, warning yourself that every footprint could mark a life's end. There's no shortcut off this scaffold. Either you stare down that grave or find another path. Feeling the wool's weight on your shoulders, you wonder if the warm sand underfoot might be safer than that cold void. Which is scarier, the living earth beneath you or the frozen emptiness below? You remember the murmurs, if you're a good neighbor, but the sentence trails off. You steady your breath and press your hand into the clay and lime wall beside you. The soil is cold, heavy, unyielding, the same way your hopes feel right now. You look down at the yellow-tinged shadow of your knees. It stings to realize that burying someone here is just routine. You tilt your head up. The sun is overhead, its rays barely reaching the bottom of the pit. This place isn't a peaceful cemetery. It's just a shallow hole, meant to be filled as fast as it's dug. The smell of hot straw and earth mingles with the odor of death. You take a step back and gaze at the little plank where a name will go. Thinking of your own name, your heart tells you, conquer the fear. Death is real and cold, but your desire to stay in the warmth of life is stronger. With that, you pull your foot away from the edge and turn from the pit. You pass the scattered tools, shovels lying on their sides, mossy sacks, the bone-dry reek of the graveyard wafting after you. Your mind repeats, don't look back. Still, you pause and glance once more. The pit's darkness has carved itself into your memory. The villagers' whispers follow you. One day, it'll be your turn. You nod, accept the prick of the wool against your skin, and head back down the corridor. Behind you, the silent call of that grave propels every step, urging you to live another day. And so, you leave the road to the grave behind and move on to the village's harsh realities. The first steps of another grueling day in the fields. You leave the grave pit behind and cross the village square to where the dirt road to the fields begins. Ahead, under the pale sun, lie barren plots of earth, parched and cracked, each fissure a testament to drought and back-breaking labor. The shovel you carry feels like a lead weight in your hands, a reminder that today's work will be the first step in a relentless trial. Moments ago, the cool touch of the shovel blade brought relief. Now it's the scorching soil waiting for you. Slinging the handle over your shoulder, you head to the field's irrigation ditch. Once brimming in spring, it's all but dry in midsummer. You touch the bottom with your fingertip and squeeze out a drop of water. Proof that every single drop is precious, every single drop a lifeline. Planting your feet, you grip the shovel shaft and drive the blade into the hard ground. The soil resists, no soft give, no satisfying chunk. You bend your knees, shift your weight, and let every muscle from your shoulders down to your thighs sink up. There's a hollow thunk as the blade sinks in, a sound older and nobler than any engine roar. When you lift your first load of soil, you feel a rush of relief, as if you'd lifted a boulder from your back. But that relief evaporates the moment you set it down. You step back to survey your work, only a small pile and hundreds more shovelfuls to go. Closing your eyes, you center yourself with a slow, controlled breath. A mantra forms in your mind. One more shovel, one more shovel. As the sun climbs higher, sweat drips from your brow. You loosen your collar, hoping for a fleeting breeze. The heat from the soil travels up the metal blade, echoing through your arms and ribs. Every lift is a summons to this mandatory summit. After a while, your knees start to ache. With no pads to cushion you, every bend slams your joints against the earth's hardness. Your kneecaps scrape against grit, begging for relief that won't come. Yet stopping isn't an option. Each hole you dig holds hope for the harvest, a drop of life in this parched land. You pause to drink. Setting the shovel aside, you bring the water to your lips. A brief chill brushes your mouth, gone the instant you swallow. You close your eyes, savor the silence, then grab the shovel again and press on. This work feels like a ritual to the gods of the fields, digging earth as an offering. Each shovel mark you leave is fleeting, washed away by wind and rain. Still, they're your testament to survival, one line of labor in a story that won't be finished in a day. Hours pass and the soil loosens. The blade cuts easier. When your strength flags, you summon reserves you didn't know you had. One more shovel, you tell yourself. One more shovel. In that moment, you feel the invisible bond linking you with the other farmers sharing this toil. You step back and peer into the hole you've carved. It gapes like a dark challenge. You don't know how many more shovels it will take to reach its bottom. Under the merciless sun, you taste both the satisfaction of the earth giving way and the ache in your shoulders. Two opposite truths in one moment. You give the shovel a final shake. The piled soil beside you seems to press its presence into your bones. Each clod a reminder that survival demands endless work. And so, with the pit deepened at the intersection of your will and necessity, you lift your gaze to the next trial, the prison of the seasons. You finish digging the field pit and rest your shovel just as the sun reaches its zenith. Other farmers scramble for shade, but out here in the open plain, there is none. The seasons themselves feel like a sentence. Winters freeze and summers scorch. No reprieve exists in between. You stand and survey the midday field, the heat trapping you like an oven. The air itself convicts your lungs, each breath a blow from a scorching rod. When summer's torture ends, winter arrives to freeze you to the bone and burn your lungs with icy shards. In this endless cycle, your only enemy is time itself. You take a step back and reach for your water skin. Its thin leather carries barely a few precious sips. When you lift that final drop to your lips, a bittersweet relief washes over you, knowing it won't quench tomorrow's thirst. Yet those few droplets still offer a fleeting escape from the desert's grip. There are no birdsong choruses here, only the sun's silent explosions overhead. A stray breeze kicks up dust that stings your eyes. You close your eyes and sway, conjuring the memory of a crisp winter morning. Snowball fights, a roaring fire, a steaming bowl of soup, dreams of another world. Your body hungers for any escape from this living inferno. The prickly wool shirt on your back feels like a garment woven from both fire and ice, each bead of sweat crystallizing like frost. Every drop bears witness to your captivity by the seasons. In the distance you see snow-capped peaks, the rare birthplaces of the rivers that once fed these fields. They look like a fairy tale from here. Cold, unreachable bastions behind iron bars of mountain slopes. As you wrestle with the sun's fury, memories of winter's chill flood in. Bare feet on frozen soil, biting frost inside your nostrils, fingers numbed by ice, all part of the season's twin blows. You trudge across the field's uneven scars. Each cracked patch of earth is its own punishment. The higher the sun climbs, the more even the shadows shrink away, leaving your path painted in a thin ribbon of heat. In this prison of seasons, time itself stands as the lone warder. You stop and tilt your face skyward. The heavens are no longer blue, just a bleached, glaring white. The sun has shed its innocence, transformed into an unblinking eye that never looks away. No rain, no snow, no mist, only relentless brightness. Looking to the horizon, you see a few farmers hunched by the irrigation canal, coaxing the last trickle through their furrows. They cling to each drop like a dying ember. You head toward them, hoping for a share of that final moisture. But you cannot deceive yourself. Your earlier toil means even that last drop is too precious to waste. In a few days, only the meltwaters from distant peaks will refill these dried channels. Yet even that feast of water will remind you of the season's ruthless dominion. You take a deep breath and set your pace. Winter storms might lock you indoors, a roaring hearth warming your bones. But here, in the prison of seasons, no escape exists from winter or summer. One last glance, and you hoist your shovel over your shoulder. In this field, beneath unyielding skies, you learn to walk the razor's edge between life and death. And so, you leave behind the prison of seasons and step toward your next trial, the quest for a draught of beer to slake your thirst in Scene 11. You stumble into the village tavern, escaping the sun's scorching breath. Inside, the air is thick with wood smoke and the sweet scent of malt. Rows of barrels behind the wooden bar glimmer with golden liquid. Here, even the children carry hope in their veins instead of water. You drag your feet to the counter. Lifting your hand to the iron tap, you catch the first drips of beer into your wooden bowl. The foam swells slowly, ready to spill over. You inhale deeply before taking that first sip. The warm malt and yeast aromas feel like the only true relief from your thirst. The first taste on your tongue can't compare to cold water. It's sweet, yet sharp. The magic of fermented grains slides down from your lips to your very core. The warmth in your mouth banishes even the echo of that empty dentist's socket, replacing it with an icy coolness dancing on your cheek. You lean against the bar, bowl in hand, realizing that one more cup of this might shield you from the day's heat like a suit of armor. The hiss of barrels and the smell of old brick walls form a steady rhythm. Drink, endure, drink, live. You sip again, foam clinging to your lips. Wiping your mouth, you spy scattered breadcrumbs on the bar's edge. Maybe the next scene will bring a taste of that pottage again. But for now, this cold savior is all you need. There's a hint of tang in the beer, as if centuries of thirst bloom into life with every drop. Around you, villagers repeat the same ritual. They refill their bowls and break free from the chains of drought. Every shared swallow feels like a collective heartbeat. You hold your breath and watch the sediment settle at the bottom of the bowl. Tiny granules of yeast rise like grains of earth from the village's grave pit, each one a medal in your battle against the summer's blaze. The beer's chill melts away the weight of your prickly wool shirt, and even the cobblestones underfoot feel refreshingly cool, like a well-worn threshold. A faint breeze drifts in, carrying the steamy exhale of the tavern and wrapping you in the beer's embrace. With one final gulp, you set the bowl down. You exhale, maybe the first real sigh of the day. A small smile tugs at your lips. Even in the Middle Ages, life's sweetest moments can hide in a few drops of fermented grain. And so, quenched at last from this relentless drought, you step out toward your next challenge, the camphor-scented ailments. After swallowing the last drop of beer, you straighten up from the bar. A faint breeze carries the sharp scent of camphor from the healer's herb sacks in the corner. The village's doctor arrives carrying a leather-lined satchel full of herbal concoctions and jars of leeches. You step into the small chamber. Immediately, the heavy, biting aroma of camphor stings your nostrils and seeps into your lungs. You ease onto the low stool beside the table. In the healer's hands, a stone mortar clangs as she crushes herbs, cinnamon bark, thyme, and a generous pinch of camphor erupt into an unforgettable fragrance. You inhale deeply, torn between revulsion and relief, because here, surrendering to tradition is another way to survive. She pulls out a slick salve of crushed herbs blended with olive oil and hands it to you. The camphor's cool burn tingles on your fingertips. You dab it onto your temples and down your neck, the sting kneading away the ache in your head and opening your airways to a crisp, clearing relief. Meanwhile, the healer scans an ancient tablet scroll. "Pestilence," she says quietly. "If your fever, chills, and nausea worsen over the next few days, we must act fast." You nod, aware that this disease is the village's silent killer, yet the thorns under your wool shirt, the burning sun, and the thirst you've endured feel just as frightening. Next comes the leech treatment. She lifts a small glass jar from a high shelf. Inside, the leeches writhe in damp darkness, waiting to restore balance to your blood. You hesitate. Leeches aren't as brutal as tooth extraction, but having one latch onto you feels oddly vulnerable. She plucks a leech with a bit of cloth and presses it to your forearm. Instantly it grips, its translucent body feeding. A single drop of blood trickles down into the jar, a grotesque yet mesmerizing rhythm, each bead marking the thin line between life and death. Your hands tremble. After the cool camphor's clarity, this slimy ritual feels jarring. Still, the healer's words echo. Camphor and leeches together will rewrite your body's rhythm. You close your eyes, feel the leech's gentle tug, and sense your own warm blood flowing. When the leech finally detaches with a soft hiss, she returns it to its jar. You shake out your arm and watch a tiny stream of blood bead along your skin, an intimate mix of pain and healing. For the final step, she hands you a bowl of powdered herbs. Stir this into hot water and drink it down, she instructs. You pour a few spoonfuls into steaming water, stirring until it forms a thick paste. The sharp camphor scent merges with the bittersweet herbs. You sip it. The warmth scorches your throat, but settles into your gut as a soothing internal pain reliever. You rise from the stool, the medicine's dizziness swirling in your head, yet the mingled camphor aroma and the leech's strange aid spark a fierce will to live. As you push open the door, the cold, muddy scent of the outside world washes away the herbal fumes, igniting a fresh flicker of energy within you. And so, having undergone the camphor-scented ritual of healing and escaped death's grasp for now, you step out toward the next trial. Unarmed protection. You step out of the healer's cottage and back into the silent streets of the village square. The midday sun beats down with no shade in sight. As you walk, the faint itch of your thorny wool shirt reminds you of every challenge you've faced so far. Your eyes drift to the Lord's Manor, its sturdy wooden railings a clear sign that real protection here comes not from weapons, but from noble birth. You pick up your pace. At the manor gate, 2 guards stand watch, spears in hand. You clutch your old belt buckle, no sword or dagger, just this simple piece of metal. If the guards spot your ragged shirt or the bite marks from the fleas, you'll be dismissed immediately. Your only defense is invisibility, staying small, staying unremarkable. When one guard glances your way, your heart skips a beat. He looks you over, then tips his spear slightly, a silent reminder that his weapon and the fear it inspires is his true shield. You let his gaze pass over you and slip along the wall into a narrow side passage. Here lies a checkpoint set up by the Lord's soldiers, a rough wooden table with sealed scrolls and a few iron signet rings. You have no official papers, only that belt buckle hidden at your side. You might have to show it as your token of passage, but it won't grant you privilege or power, just permission to proceed. Your pulse races as you watch the soldier recite names from a parchment, each one spoken like a magic word. Your name isn't on the list, yet you press your fingers against the buckle and hope for a quiet nod of approval. For a fleeting moment, that silent assent feels stronger than any chainmail. You settle onto a simple wooden stool and listen to the clatter of armored boots echoing down the corridor. Each metallic step is its own promise of security. Security you don't possess. Instead, you rely on the shadows and your knack for staying unseen. A peasant woman whispers nearby, "I've been summoned before the Lord." She carries no guard either, only obedience and fear. You realize that for both of you, the greatest protection isn't a weapon, but knowing how to remain unnoticed. You rise and move deeper into the passage, letting the cold stone walls swallow you. With every step, you blend into the darkness. You're weaponless, but your unassuming presence is your greatest armor. Peeking through a gap in the wall, you glimpse the Lord's throne room. Heavy drapes filter the sunlight, revealing just a hint of opulence inside. You feel the pull to enter, to stand boldly before power, but you clutch your belt buckle and slip quietly back into the shadows. Following the outer wall, you find a narrow path that leads you beyond the guard's sight. Your pulse slows. No weapon in hand, yet your true protection, your ability to go unseen, has carried you safely through. And so, having learned that the strongest defense can be your own anonymity, you leave the manor behind and step toward your next trial, the invitation to mishaps in Scene 14. As you slip away from the manor's cold stone walls, you find yourself on a narrow path edged by ancient, rotting fences. In the Middle Ages, every step teems with unseen hazards. A stray blade, an axe lodged in wood. Even an innocent-looking stick can become a deadly weapon. You tread carefully, keenly aware of how vulnerable you are to an unexpected blow. Along the way, you spot a discarded axe handle on the ground. Its head long gone, the metal ferrule rusted, yet its edge still seems ominously sharp. You brush your fingertip along the weathered wood and feel the chill of its memory. For a moment, you recall how razor-thin the line between yesterday's joy and today's fear can be. A little further on, you lean against the trunk of a decaying tree. A nail half buried in its cracked bark juts out at an angle. One careless press could send it slicing into your flesh. You imagine the searing pain of such a misstep, far worse than any tooth extraction. You refocus on the path. A row of uneven stones juts up like a twisted ankle waiting to happen. You almost stumble, your knee catching the raised edge, and you wince as pain radiates through your hip. In that instant, you feel just how fragile your body truly is. Near the path's edge, you notice the wheel ruts of a broken cart. Though once sturdy enough to bear heavy barrels, a single bump could throw the wheel off its axle and you under it. As you weave between the two parallel grooves, your heart thumps in warning. One wrong move here could crush you. Ahead, a field of jagged stakes protrudes from the earth. Half-buried nails and shards of iron litter the ground, remnants of a shattered workbench. Each one promises to carve a fate for any traveler who missteps. Your buckle feels cold in your pocket as your hands tremble, instinct sharpening in this land of latent danger. Beneath the open sky, you nearly trip on a tent pole driven into the dirt. It's held by a rotting peg and a rusty nail, barely clinging to life. One shove, and it would collapse, its fall as deadly as a falling scythe. You pause, tempted to test its strength, but you pull back, knowing that to touch it might seal your own fate. You take a brief rest and inspect the reinforced knee patches of your leather trousers. Each worn scar tells the story of a past accident, a scrape from sliding, a nick from stumbling. Those faded marks remind you that danger hides in every step of civilization's advance, and that today's scars could deepen in an instant. Collecting yourself, you slow your pace and train your gaze beyond the path toward the distant horizon, seeking balance and testing your agility on this treacherous ground. Your footsteps fall in sync with your heartbeat, each step a choice, each choice hanging between life and death. At last, you emerge from the perilous stretch onto firmer ground, where the path smooths and danger recedes, if only for now. Yet you know in a world of constant hazards, the next step always holds a new trap. And so, leaving behind this landscape of invited mishaps, you press on toward the next scene, holy dread, where the church's tolling bells await. The narrow stone streets fall silent as you draw beneath the church tower's shadow. Each deep dong of the bell echoes in time with your heartbeat, an unspoken warning that every moment in this village unfolds under holy scrutiny. Stepping into the courtyard, you shiver as your boots meet the cold church stones. Rows of wooden benches, some bearing threadbare cushions, face the gleaming portal. Before each step, the bell's toll rings in your mind. This sacred place is watching you. At the doorway stand the priest and his acolytes, their long black robes glinting faintly where the sun strikes them. One cleric bows his head to you, a gesture that serves as both greeting and reminder. Here, obedience is your only safe path. You steady your pace, forcing the thorny shirt off your shoulders ache as you push the heavy door open. The hinge creaks, deepening the hush. Inside, the vast stone walls inhale the air around you. High above, stained glass windows cast tiny beams of colored light, dancing like the flicker of a sacred rite across the flagstone floor. The bell's resonance follows you indoors. With every toll, the painted saints on the frescoed walls seem to come alive, their gaze fixed on your every move, silent witnesses to your sins. Your knees tremble. You want to kneel, yet the spikes in your shirt pin you upright. You walk toward the altar, hymns drifting through the nave in slow, mournful cadences. In a distant corner, candles flicker like beacons of confession, a safe harbor for unburdening guilt. But like the Lord's guards beyond the courtyard, God's watchful presence here threatens to expose your heart, sinful or pure. The priest steps forward, lifting his arms in the sign of blessing. Instinctively, you clench your fists at your sides as prickles jab into your flesh. Give thanks, he whispers into your ear, or endure torments fiercer than these flames. Another cleric unfurls a scroll from an ancient tome and intones a Latin verse. Its measured syllables ricochet off the arches, each word a dual promise of healing and judgment. You feel the verse strike your spirit, intensifying the unrest stirring within you. As you approach the pulpit, colored light from the windows casts the thorny outline of your shirt onto the floor, forked like a cross, at once shield and shackle. Your eyes fix on that shadow, drawn into its silent interrogation throughout the service. Finally, the priest raises his hands in benediction. Go forth, but remember, every step you take will bear the imprint of this hallowed place, he intones softly. In that instant, fear settles like a stone in your chest, stronger even than the pain of your shirt's spikes. You slip back through the doorway. The final bell toll rings out, sealing the ritual and releasing you into the world once more. Outside, the air is warmer and dustier. Proof that the sacred dread you carry now drapes you in a velvet cloak that slowly fades. One last glance at the Latin inscription carved on a nearby stone. Noli me tangere, touch me not, reminds you of both divine law and earthly boundaries. The spikes against your shoulders promise that neither will let you cross their line unscathed. And so, having emerged from the church's shadow of fear and faced the medieval test of faith and mortality, you move on toward the next chapter. The luxury of being a woman. Walk in between those narrow stone cottages. Every step you take is another test, especially in your thorny wool shirt. With each footfall, you feel the ache in your shoulders and the gentle stirring in your belly. That dual weight, earth and expectation, settles heavy on every muscle. You know most women spend their days at home, not in the fields, but their duties are no lighter. Hauling water at dawn, baking bread, sitting at the loom, then gathering vegetables in the garden. Whether you're pregnant or not, none of it gets any easier. And with new life growing inside you, each task grows heavier still. Back in your little hut, you crouch on the wooden bench and pull your water skin from your bundle. Every sip feels like unlocking a tiny window of hope for the life inside you. Yet your body thirsts for more, every drop a sacred treasure. Later, you stroll down to the village well and meet other women washing clothes. Their chatter is light, birthing pains, guessing the baby's sex, debating lucky names. But in their eyes you see a shadow. Every birth is a brush with death. You carry that shadow with you, weighing your own fate. You pass the midwife's house, mud floor and straw piles visible through the open door. Inside there's a low, sagging bed ready for the next mother's cry. The midwife, like a battlefield commander, moves around her workspace with calm purpose. You want to run, but you find yourself reaching for the nearby water basin. Even a single drop matters now. As you settle onto the coarse linen birth bed, the baby kicks beneath your ribs. You draw in a deep breath, feeling that flutter pulse in time with your own heart. For a moment, you brace yourself against the coming pain, matching your breath to the life inside you. You'll give birth here, the midwife says quietly, with pain, blood, and prayers. She ties a thin cord around your chest and hands you a small amulet, a charm to protect both mother and child. The cool metal tingles against your skin. Sunlight filters through the narrow window, dust motes dancing in its beam as your contractions deepen. The midwife pours warm water around your navel, each drop like a tiny caress, easing the sharp edges of your pain. Proof that the sacred dread you carry now drapes you in a velvet cloak that slowly fades. One last glance at the Latin inscription carved on a nearby stone, Noli me tangere, touch me not, reminds you of both divine law and earthly boundaries. The spikes against your shoulders promise that neither will let you cross their line unscathed. And so, having emerged from the church's shadow of fear and faced the medieval test of faith and mortality, you move on toward the next chapter, the luxury of being a woman. As you leave that sacred birthing chamber behind, the sun has begun its slow descent. Shadows stretch, then dissolve into themselves. At the end of the narrow stone street, you arrive at the little graveyard on the edge of the village. Here, between the newborn's first breath and life's echo, lies a sharp reminder. Life is a candle flame that can flicker out in an instant. A cobbled path winds through tightly packed headstones. Many bear only faded names or numbers. Others are topped with fresh mounds of earth. You stop before a small marker etched with "Death rarely sees 40." The letters crack like a defiant shout against time. For a moment, you feel as if your own name might be carved there. All around you, the silence of buried bodies settles into your soul. Your footfalls on the damp grass leave ghostly prints. The wind sighs through the tree branches. A soft whisper, sometimes a hollow echo. Stay here, it seems to say. Life is so brief. You almost hear the echoes of prayers learned in the grandest churches. Maybe a priest walks among these shadows, carrying an ancient book and murmuring silent benedictions. You sink to your knees, the prick of your wool shirt fading in this holy hush. Folding your hands, you murmur words of hope and nightfall. Then you notice the farmer's shovel tracks in the soft earth, lines where the living carved out moments of hope before time reclaimed them. You crouch at the edge of one fresh grave and breathe in the damp soil. Pressing your fingertip to its surface, you feel its cold weight, as if it hides a secret. That secret is death, and one day it will claim you too. When the sun touches the horizon, the long shadows of the headstones join on the ground like a silent cross. They carry the soft promise of the quiet that follows life. You surrender to the graveyard's stillness. No birdsong, no laughter of children. Here, only your own heartbeat and the earth's quiet murmur. Lifting your head, you spot the ridge of land beyond. Up there, the village's tree houses, smoke curling from chimneys, pots simmering over fires, where life still breathes. And you stand between two worlds, beneath you, the soil, ahead, living breath. A gentle voice in your mind urges, go and live. Drawing a deep breath, you rise and walk among the stones. Each step is a reaffirmation of life. Your footprints won't last. Wind and rain will erase them. Still, you press onward, determined to leave your mark, to give meaning to your steps. That longing to outshine death's shadow is what drives you. And so you leave behind the sacred boundary of early grave and silence. The wool shirt still presses against your skin, but its weight feels lighter, because despite life's harsh truths, you choose to breathe deeply and keep your imprint on the world.